Hey, Uncle Doug.
Hello.
When was the last time you did, look, there's like basic things that you do when you're puttering around the house.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you clean a sink, maybe you vacuum, maybe you put a naked woman on an altar and do an incantation. I'm just wondering, like, when was the last time you vacuumed your house? Because it's disgusting.
This morning.
Oh, okay, finally, good. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, at long last.
Yeah, but Mark, when was the last time you did one of those other things?
Well, let me consult Andrew Torres before I answer that question. But our attorney at law, our barrister in this case,
yes, our solicitor.
Well, I can tell you about somebody who probably did a lot of the latter, but absolutely none of the former.
Okay,
and I'll get to that. I'll get to both parts, but I've a really interesting person to talk about today. And guys. You don't have to be a Christian or a Muslim to be a superstitious kook who alters the course of their entire life, chasing an invisible dream over the distant horizon. Plenty of Christians and Muslims do just that, but irrational lunacy comes in every flavor of the rainbow, like Skittles. So, we've talked about every stripe of huckster before. Some that seem to know it's all a con, like Benny Hinn, and others that are more convinced of their own special place in God's order than any of their followers even are, like a guy like David Koresh, right? Mm-hmm. So today's new friend, I think, lived somewhere in the middle of those two poles. It's hard to know. And who is it? Who is today's new friend? It's none other than Frater Perder Abo, the great B666, the Laird of Boleskine, the wickedest man in the world, X-degree Supreme Rex and Sovereign Grandmaster General of Ireland, Iona, and all the Britons, the reincarnation of Pope Alexander VI, Edward Alexander Crowley, whom many listeners will know simply as Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
He's a lot of names. It's
very difficult.
Paperwork was a nightmare for him. So Aleister, for those who don't know, kind of an infamous character. He was born in 1875 in Warwickshire, England. Crowley's parents were fundamentalist evangelical Christians. And when he was just 8, they packed him off to a Christian boarding school where he later described sadistic mistreatment. So in this case, as in so many others, a love of Christianity can be cured by direct contact with actual Christians. So sadly, his father died when he was 11, and that drove the already rebellious boy deeper into crisis. He was smart as hell. He drove his teachers mad by questioning the veracity of the Bible out loud.
How dare he?
How dare he? And often knowing far more than they did about it. So, good lad, Aleister.
Well, all he would have to do is read it, really. So, it's not that impressive, to be perfectly honest.
It actually isn't that impressive, but so it was. And so he bounced around from school to school, kind of spiraling into crisis. And he, for a British upper class boy, he was misbehaving, like smoking, drinking, masturbating, and talking about it pretty loudly. And then apparently at a tender age, I think he was like 13 or something, he contracted gonorrhea from a sex worker.
Holy cow.
As you do. It's the best place to get it, really.
He was, it's a likely place to get it if you're not careful, if everybody's not careful. So he was getting pretty hard to manage for uptight Christian school headmasters, clearly. So in addition to being smart and angry, he was also rich. His father was the heir of a successful brewing business, which it looks like isn't there anymore, Crowley's Alton Ales. So when Daddy died, it became young Aleister's money. So the wealth allowed this intelligent dilettante to flit from interest to interest, from a high degree of chess mastery to mountain climbing, a hobby that would contribute to his infamy. So Crowley claimed to have his first serious mystical experience, a sexual experience with another man, in Stockholm in 1896. It seems in this moment he discovered his bisexuality, a fact he refused to ever be silent about from then on, shocking the incredibly uptight sensibilities of turn-of-the-century Britain.
I love it.
Good for you, Aleister. Yeah, I know. It's hard not to love this kid, right? So because of his wealth, intelligence, and connections, despite his vexing behavior, Crowley had thought of becoming a diplomat, which was a cushy life of luxury reserved for, just his socioeconomic strata.
Right.
But an illness turned him toward questions of mortality, so he gave up that vocation to pick up that for which we know him today, the occult.
Yes.
So a chance meeting on a climbing expedition in Switzerland got him an introduction into the ranks of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was a British secret society of upper-class types that wore robes and Tutankhamun headdresses that, to modernize, look a lot like Joe Bluth's Alliance of Magicians, complete with a sign demanding to be taken seriously. But
Right.
It's kind of hilarious to see pictures of them. But they did take themselves very seriously indeed, and met in secret to summon spirits and growl into the darkness in Latin. So, silly outfits aside, it was here Crowley was introduced to the ritualistic consumption of drugs, and he took to that ritual with the beginner's gusto.
Yes, indeed.
So, who can blame him? It was probably the gonorrhea talking. So after these gateway experiences, he decided to jump into the occult with both hooves and purchased a dramatic little manor house in the more dramatic surrounds of Loch Ness.
Oh, cool.
A place called Boleskine House, which he had then claimed the title of as a laird.
Yes.
And this is a place familiar to any lovers of classic rock as the mysterious abode purchased by Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow.
So, according to rock lore, this haunt by the legendary lake was where Stairway to Heaven was written, but sadly it's not so. So, Page was deeply interested in Crowley. He spent little time there, and the song was actually written at a spooky cottage in Wales. So I know Zeppelin fans. I'm disappointed too.
All that glitters is not gold.
So
in spite of the surety of the lady.
I think that's probably a lyric from the song.
It is indeed. Well done.
Yeah, I caught it. I caught that hint. So it was here that the fairly novice wizard Crowley set about to perform one of magic's most fabled feats of strength, the Ars Goetia, a 6-month ceremony of demon summoning based on the demonology of King Solomon in the Bible.
6 months?
6 months, and you have to be in this meditative seclusion.
He doesn't want some pussy demon coming. He wants a good demon.
Yeah, that's the Demon of the Month Club for 3 months, right?
I won't even microwave something that takes 6 minutes.
Well, it's odd that you'll find out that he was quite an impatient man. So this was a feat of such epic danger that apparently no one from the Alliance of Magicians had tried it for centuries. Like literally, all the other magicians are like, "You're crazy. You can't do this. They'll kill you." However, as Doug was mentioning about the microwave, the mercurial Crowley just plain lost interest in summoning the 72 highest-ranking demons a month or two into the task. So, hilariously enough, he would later be cast out of the Golden Dawn, the secret society of rich black magicians who met in secret because his bisexuality was just too much for the warlocks who communed with devils.
Well, chances are he was hitting on guys at the conventions and stuff.
He probably was. Typical.
Typical.
Like one of the uncles at American Atheists. Anyway, that's legend. Doug. So this expulsion was followed by years of traveling in Mexico and Asia and India, where he studied Buddhism, Hinduism, Sanskrit, yoga, the whole thing. And there he contracted malaria and was deathly ill. So, of course, he and some other British loonies do what one does when recovering from debilitating illness. They attempted to climb fucking K2.
Okay, well, yes, of course.
And at that time, that mountain had never been attempted by anyone.
Oh, my God.
So sadly, they didn't succeed, which will come as a huge surprise. And nobody died on this occasion. So the always impetuous Crowley suddenly married the sister of a friend to keep her from having to endure a stuffy arranged marriage. It was certainly scandalous, which seemed to be a large part of why he did anything. So then the couple decided, as you do, to honeymoon in Cairo. And if some of his biographies are to be believed, he and his new wife consummated their nuptials in the most exclusive room in Cairo, the king's burial chamber in the Great Pyramid of Khufu.
Whoa!
Which is awesome.
How does one go about place to do it?
But, yeah, how does one go about booking that room?
Yeah, exactly.
Be British and have it be 1898, right?
Right, and have a lot of money and bring your own mattress.
Exactly. The trick is being British. So, and in this secret nuptials, Crowley used the sexual power of this union to try to summon any of the ancient gods of Egypt. And it seems he did. His new wife, Rose Edith Kelly, in the days following the pyramid fuck party, began muttering, "They are waiting for you," over and over again. But who were they? Rose, who Crowley claimed had no connection to the occult before he fucked her in a 4,000-year-old tomb, led him to an artifact in a Cairo museum to which she had never been, to show him those who those who waited were. The small painted object she led him to, known as the Stela of Ankh F.N. Khonsu, which is just, it's cool, but it's kind of unremarkable as Egyptian artifacts go, shows some old Egypty stuff. But Crowley was instantly struck more by how the museum cataloged this artifact. Object number 666. Gasp. So a short time later, the voice of Aiwass, a servant of Horus, began whispering to Crowley, who feverishly scribbled down everything the voice from the other side told him to, resulting in his great work, The Book of the Law. Aiwass commanded him to write that humanity had reached a new eon, and Crowley must lead humanity as its one true prophet. Now, yeah, I know this is really out of the ordinary.
Yeah, we've never heard that story before.
Right.
In Egypt.
I'm sure it's just coincidence that Crowley was using his time in Egypt between World Heritage Site fucking to study Islam and the Quran, which, as we know, was delivered to the same way from the angel Gabriel to the one true prophet Muhammad, peace bro. So,
yes,
the happy couple left their pyramidal bliss behind and returned to the bonny banks of Loch Ness, where the baby likely conceived in the pyramid, Lilith, was born. A very on-brand name for the Crowleys to have picked. Right? So we talked about Lilith in episode 56, if you want to know why that's so on-brand. But anyway, always restless, the newly minted prophet decided to climb Kanchenjunga in Nepal, which is thought to be probably the most impossible mountain in the world to climb. So he's learned his lessons from K2.
This guy's ambitious. I'll give him that much.
Yeah. Oh, what a life. I'll get to what a life this guy had. But so anyway, an argument broke out among the climbers, and all but Crowley turned back. And just as happenstance would have it, they were all wiped out by an avalanche.
Oh, no way.
Crowley's arrogance prevented him from going to their aid, which is kind of a serious rule among climbers, and everybody died.
Yikes.
And that earned him international scorn among climbers, so there's another secretive group he's got kicked out of. As was typical of his class, he later had to hot-foot it out of India after shooting a guy, then met up with Rose and Lilith for a journey across China, where he developed quite a taste for opium.
As you do.
As you do. He went off to do magic with a friend in Japan, only later to learn that after he left them, his daughter Lilith had died of typhoid in Burma, driving him a bit mad.
That's when he was driven mad. That's when the madness began. Okay.
There's a long middle part where the madness was happening. So, and as if he isn't interesting enough, some biographers claim this serious globetrotting lifestyle was not in the interest of ancient wisdoms and delicious opiums, at least not exclusively. They claim he was a lifelong spy for the British government, and the absurd persona of a central casting wizard was cover. And as it is with most things, Crowley, it is exactly the same chance of being true as not.
Yeah, well, There you go.
So, having been bounced off out of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Crowley and some splitters from that group formed a group called AA, which, though it should have been, is not Alcoholics Anonymous. It's just two capital A's with a little pyramid of dots between them. And this would later evolve into a cult called Thelema, which still exists here and there, and Crowley is its prophet.
Sure.
So, years of mountaintop and Sahara Desert magic sex rituals, one of which appears to have driven a young male initiate literally insane, blood sacrifices, and very public sex scandals and accusations followed. And Crowley actually reveled in the attention, even though some of the accusations appear to have been totally false. But as time wore on, he'd spent his way through his fortune, and despite being a madly prolific writer of books of magic and poems and plays, and even short stories in the horror genre, he was pretty broke. So he ended up in New York as a freelance writer, where he oddly began agitating for the German cause in World War I.
Oh my God.
Even ridiculously comparing the Kaiser Wilhelm II, who was kind of a middling nobody, to Jesus Christ.
Oh, wow. Well, you got in every race you got to pick a horse, and you don't get them all right,
and go big or go home.
That's right.
Oh, this guy went big all the time. So
he sounds like he's the definition of go big or go home. He goes big all the times, every time, never home.
This would be a fascinating person to have met, right? Kind of like Mana Sheila in the from Wild Wild Country, right? From the what were they called? Those crazy people, the Rajneeshis.
Yeah.
Kind of the devil, but she'd certainly be interesting.
Yeah.
So he was agitating to the German side, and here it is actually documented that he was acting as a chaos agent for British intelligence.
Oh my God!
In the United States, making the German-American cause look ridiculous, and trying to convince the Americans to enter the war on the British side. So it was a bizarre life, Aleister's. So the next phase of Crowley's life was to be the most intense and most destructive to body and reputation. He, after consulting the I Ching, of which you do naturally when you're about to make a crazy decision, he founded the Abbey of Thelema in a tiny town in Sicily to act as a home and school for keen young initiates with money to come learn the ways of the great magus.
Yes.
And in this rustic country home, daily compulsory ritual offerings to the sun god Ra were followed by sex magic and compulsory anal sex. Ooh. Seriously.
Okay.
In a house full of children and wild dogs and cats.
Oh.
Okay.
So heroin, cocaine, and peyote were used constantly.
Holy shit.
And it seems before long the conditions in the house were like that of a trailer park meth lab.
It sounds like you're describing your place, Mark.
Yeah, well, that's what attracted me to the story, right? It was the court summons I got from the health department. So
this sounds like the hotel room in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when they
totally
wakes up with the dinosaur tail on.
But in a quiet Sicilian town. So Crowley tried to force a goat to have sex with a female devotee.
Oh, right.
And other initiates were forced to drink the blood of a murdered cat. Stories of the place were met with outrage in the British press, as you can imagine. And it was here that Crowley's heroin and cocaine addiction would become the dominant themes of his remaining years. So after Italy deported him from Sicily for reasons
shocking,
reasons that are clear. I know. What? Crowley, I'm mispronouncing his name. It's actually Crowley. Crowley drifted around in search of money and a way to kick his habit, which by now had required several nasal surgeries to try to repair. So he ended up in Berlin, and this was the 30s, when he was fascinated by the rise of Hitler, surrounded as it was by ancient occult symbolism. So he even wanted to try to convert the Fuhrer to his cult of Thelema, but later turned on Hitler after he had German occult leaders arrested, and oddly enough, even accusing Hitler of practicing black magic in the press.
Boy, the road not taken.
Well, it feels a little odd for this guy to be, quote, accusing anyone of doing the stuff that he has been doing his entire life.
Right. And to him, black magic is not a bad.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I accuse you of eating fruit, sir.
Yeah, j'accuse. So, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, Crowley died in 1947 at the age of 72. He left behind a massive trove of writing and art. I counted something close to 70 books and poetry anthologies.
Wow.
Yeah. He was very prolific in writing, and he was a painter, in addition to all his other crap. But his shadow definitely looms large over the darkest corners of the modern Western tradition. He's inspired everybody from Led Zeppelin, as we mentioned, to David Bowie, to Anton LaVey, to, of course, Ozzy Osbourne. Oh, and last thing, while he was alive, he oversaw several chapters of the Odo Templi Orientis.
Ah, yes.
Yes, the OTO, another incarnation of a secret magic society. And there are chapters all over the world, including one in Los Angeles.
And the OTO is largely... I'm sorry, I should let you say it. You say all the things.
No, go ahead.
Well, isn't it... It's like... Didn't that become part of the whole Satanist movement?
Well, I think I didn't go as far as finding that direct connection, but I know that
they're just a magic sex cult. Maybe that's all.
Well, Well, that may be where Anton LaVey, found inspiration originally, but it was mostly sex and not directly Satanism.
Right. We'll have to do them another time.
Oh, for sure. So the LA chapter was started by a brilliant young disciple named Jack Parsons. And interesting, but not the most interesting part of that story is that Jack Parsons was a chemist who invented solid rocket fuel.
What?
And went on to co-found the Jet Propulsion Laboratory out of Caltech, which still is active in getting, probes to Mars and things like that. So
and in getting magic to happen.
Right. It's interesting a person can be both things at once, but there you go. So the more interesting part of the story is that Jack Parsons had a good friend out of the OTO Lodge named Lafayette. Now, Lafayette was fascinated by the idea of advancing through secret levels of an order under careful guidance of a senior cleric who was in touch with forbidden knowledge and the power dynamic that created. Sadly, Jack and Lafayette had a falling out, as Lafayette, who preferred to go by his middle name Ron, took off with Parsons' hot girlfriend and left the Odo Templi Orientis to start his own thing. And by the way, Lafayette's full name was Lafayette Ronald Hubbard.
Right.
Or LRH to his disciples of secret magic. So great job, Aleister.
Yeah, thanks for that.
You really made the world a better place. That is the weird, amazing, wonderful, terrible life of crazy person Aleister Crowley, guys.
Wow.
I love it. I love it.
And oddly, nobody has made nobody's made a movie of this.
Yeah, but how could you?
It
Oh my God.
It seems like a lot.
Yeah.
But I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
Slash
HBO
series.
And Terry Gilliam has to direct it.
Oh,
He's the only one who
my
can.
God.
that just seems
nightmarish.
redundant.
Nightmarish. So anyway, guys, that's Aleister.
Okay,
Crazy.
love it. Let's move on.